In the mid-19th century, a quiet revolution was stirring in the realm of thought and literature. In the small town of Concord, Massachusetts, a group of thinkers would regularly gather at Walden Pond to discuss life, nature, and the human condition. The likes of Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, and Margaret Fuller would sit by the water, reflecting on the idea of transcendentalism, a philosophy that placed emphasis on the individual's direct connection to nature and the universe, advocating for personal intuition over institutional doctrine. They were, in many ways, the original Dead Poets Society. This group didn't call themselves by that name, of course, but the spirit was the same, a group of individuals daring to ask deeper questions about life, pushing against societal norms, and celebrating the beauty of existence through words and personal experience. They weren't there to achieve fame or wealth, but to explore the truths that hide between the lines of everyday life. In Dead Poets Society, the fictional film we're all familiar with, this same spirit is captured. A group of students, young, impressionable, and yearning for meaning, are introduced to a world where literature is not just a subject, but a way of life. Through the influence of their teacher, Mr. Keating, they begin to see poetry not as lines on a page, but as a call to arms for life itself. The question that echoes throughout the film is simple yet profound. What will your verse be? Let's unpack that question for a moment. What will your verse be? It's easy to get caught up in the routines of life. We wake up, we work, we check our phones, we fall asleep. Days blend into each other, and before we know it, months, years even have passed. We measure success by external markers, a promotion, a paycheck, a title. But what the film and the transcendentalists ask is something far deeper. How are you living your life? What story are you telling through your actions, through your relationships, through the way you choose to spend your time? This isn't about grandeur or making headlines. It's about living authentically, a concept that both transcendentalists and modern thinkers have grappled with. In Emerson's essay, Self-Reliance, he writes, "To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment." Emerson's words resonate deeply because they hit on an essential truth. Society imposes upon us a set of expectations, roles, and norms, but true fulfillment comes from stepping outside those lines and asking ourselves, what do I really want? Mr. Keating's character embodies this idea. He encourages his students to seize the day, to live in the present, to break free from the confines of societal expectation, and to carve out their own path. But here's the thing, seizing the day doesn't necessarily mean doing something extravagant or reckless. It can be as simple as choosing to spend an afternoon reading a book that moves you, or taking a walk without the distraction of your phone. It's about being present in your own life and making choices that align with who you are, rather than what others expect of you. There's a scene in Dead Poets Society where the students stand on their desks declaring, "Oh Captain, my Captain," in homage to Mr. Keating. This act is not just one of rebellion, but of recognition. The students see Keating not just as a teacher, but as a guide, a mentor who has shown them the power of words. But why do words matter so much? Why do we look to poetry, literature, and philosophy to make sense of our lives? The answer is simple. Words give form to the ineffable. They allow us to express what we feel but cannot articulate. They connect us to something larger than ourselves. A well-crafted poem or a powerful novel can make us feel less alone in the world, reminding us that others have grappled with the same questions, the same doubts, and the same struggles. Take Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass, for example, a work that Keating introduces to his students. Whitman celebrates life in all its raw, unpolished beauty. He embraces the contradictions of being human, the joy and the sorrow, the triumphs and the failures. His words remind us that life is not about perfection, but about embracing the messiness of existence. In one of his most famous lines, Whitman declares, "I contain multitudes." It's a recognition that we, as individuals, are complex, ever-changing, and full of contradictions. And that's okay. In fact, it's what makes life interesting. But here's the real kicker. The words we surround ourselves with, the ideas we choose to engage with, shape who we are. Think about the books you've read, the quotes you've saved, the songs that have brought you comfort. Each of those things has left an imprint on you, whether you realize it or not. They have influenced how you see the world, how you understand yourself, and how you move through life. In this sense, we are all in some way the products of the words we consume. One of the central themes in Dead Poets Society is the struggle between individuality and conformity. The students at Welton Academy are expected to follow a strict path, get good grades, go to a prestigious college, and pursue a respectable career. But Keating challenges them to question that path. He encourages them to think for themselves, to explore their passions, and to consider what it means to live a life that is truly their own. This is a challenge that many of us face. From a young age, we are taught to conform to certain standards, to fit in, to follow the rules, to do what is expected of us. And while there's nothing inherently wrong with structure or discipline, the danger lies in losing ourselves in the process. When we conform too much, we risk becoming a version of ourselves that is shaped entirely by external forces rather than by our own desires, dreams, and values. The Transcendentalists understood this danger. Thoreau, in his experiment at Walden Pond, sought to strip away the distractions of society and live a life of simplicity and authenticity. He wanted to see what was left when all the noise and expectations were removed. His famous quote, "I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately," speaks to this desire to live with intention, to make choices based on one's own values rather than the pressures of society. But here's the irony. Living authentically, breaking away from conformity, can be incredibly difficult. It often requires courage, resilience, and a willingness to face discomfort. It means standing apart from the crowd, which can feel isolating. It means making choices that others might not understand or approve of. But in doing so, we find a deeper sense of fulfillment, a life that is truly our own. A recurring theme in both the film and transcendentalist philosophy is the fear of failure. The students at Welton are terrified of disappointing their parents, their teachers, and themselves. They fear not living up to expectations, not being good enough. But Mr. Keating teaches them that failure is not something to be feared, but embraced. Failure is a natural part of the human experience. In fact, it's essential for growth. Emerson once said, "Our greatest glory is not in never failing, but in rising up every time we fail." This is a lesson that many of us struggle to internalize. We are conditioned to equate failure with inadequacy, to believe that mistakes define us. But what if we reframed failure as a stepping stone, a necessary part of the journey? When the students in Dead Poets Society begin to embrace their own individuality, they also begin to embrace the possibility of failure. They take risks, whether it's writing poetry, acting in a play, or standing up to authority. And yes, sometimes they fail. But in those failures, they discover something more important: resilience, self-discovery, and the courage to keep going. The phrase carpe diem is repeated throughout Dead Poets Society. It's a Latin phrase that means seize the day, and it's a call to action that resonates across time and cultures. But what does it really mean to seize the day? Is it about living recklessly, throwing caution to the wind, or is it about something deeper? To seize the day in the philosophical sense means to live fully in the present moment. It means not postponing joy, not waiting for some future event to make you happy. It's about finding meaning and fulfillment in the here and now, even in the small, ordinary moments of life. This doesn't mean ignoring the future or shirking responsibilities, but rather recognizing that life is happening right now, and it's up to us to make the most of it. The Transcendentalists, especially Thoreau, were advocates of this kind of mindfulness. Thoreau believed that by simplifying our lives and focusing on the present, we could experience a deeper connection to ourselves and the world around us. He wrote, "You must live in the present, launch yourself on every wave, find your eternity in each moment." This is the essence of carpe diem, not a frantic grasping for more, but a quiet appreciation of what is already in front of us. The beauty of Dead Poets Society lies in its message that life is meant to be lived deeply, thoughtfully, and authentically. It's a film that challenges us to ask the hard questions. What do I want from life? What legacy do I want to leave behind? Am I living in alignment with my own values, or am I simply following a script that was handed to me? In the end, the story of the dead poets is one that encourages us to embrace the power of words, to challenge conformity, to face our fears and to seize the day. It's a story that reminds us that we are the authors of our own lives and that each of us has the power to write our own verse. The question is, what will yours be?